مرحبا بكم جميعا وحياكم الله في هذه الورشة التفاعلية. سعداء جدا بمشاركتكم في برنامجنا التدريبي الذي ننظمه في هيئة أبو ظبي للطفولة المبكرة بالتعاون مع شركائنا. نسعى في هيئة أبو ظبي للطفولة المبكرة إلى دعم مسيرة التنمية الشاملة للأطفال وتعزيز رفاهيتهم منذ فترة الحمل وحتى سن الثامنة، وضمان نموهم في بيئة داعمة وآمنة وتعزز وصولهم لموارد وأدوات إبداعية ومبتكرة، وحصولهم على خدمات متكاملة وذات جودة عالية تساهم في تطوير مهاراتهم وتحسين قدراتهم. لذلك نحن حريصين على تمكين شركائنا وتعزيز قدراتهم لدعم التنمية الشاملة للطفل. هذا البرنامج تم تصميمه خصيصا للعاملين في قطاع التعليم المبكر والحضانات بهدف إثراء خبراتكم وتنمية مهاراتكم في مجالات الطفولة المبكرة وصولا لتحسين جودة التعليم وتحقيق رفاهية أحبتنا الأطفال من خلال التركيز على 4 مجالات رئيسية هي الصحة والتغذية، حماية الطفل، الدعم الأسري، إلى جانب الرعاية والتعليم المبكرين. نتمنى لكم مشاركة ممتعة ومفيدة ومداخلات ثرية وقيمة، ونتطلع للالتقاء بكم مجددا في برامجنا المستقبلية. نشكركم مرة أخرى على حضوركم ومشاركتكم، ونثمن لكم جهودكم في تنمية ورعاية أحبتنا الأطفال.
Very good. Amazing. Excited for the week ahead.
Yes, almost over though. Shall I start straight away? We're ready to go?
Yes, please.
Perfect. Thank you, Rafi. So good morning, everyone. Fantastic and exciting Saturday morning. I'm just going to whiz through a couple of things before I start. You have all been placed on mute. That's basically to ensure that you have a clear listening experience. We do also have a chat function that you can add some questions during this the morning, and I'll do my best to answer those at the end of the session. If there's some questions that I don't get to, I will try to answer them after the session, and they'll be in the common questions on the forum. And the forum is accessible via the email link that you received during registration. There is a handout that I have with this session that I will be forwarding across to Rafi, and hopefully he can email that across to you. And there will be a list of references as well, because I have referred to a couple of things through the session for this morning you might want to refer back to. Also, the sessions are recorded and will be accessible and available to watch in English. I think it's going to be done in Arabic later on this evening, and there may be a subtitled in Hindi too. So that's for the session if you want to come back to it to share with your team. So we're going to start this morning with improving partnerships with parents in an early years setting. Let's see if I can get to my next slide. Oops. There we go. So we've done that one already. Right. So the aim for today's session, the aim for the presentation is to support practitioners and educators in developing a strong parent partnership and engage parents in their child's learning and development along with their well-being, welfare and happiness. Before we do this, I'm just going to go through the learning outcomes that we plan to touch on this morning. So we will be defining partnership with parents. We'll be exploring the history of parent partnership, briefly what it was like back in history and what it's like now and what's happened during the years to make the change that we're seeing now in partnership with parents. We will be discussing the concept of partnership with parents in an early years setting and how important it is. We will be looking at the different and a range of practical ways that you can promote partnership with parents in an early years setting. We'll be looking at the challenges and barriers that we might all be facing while trying to develop these partnership with parents. Do pop in questions in the chat section if there's anything you'd like me to support you with in that area. We'd also be touching on how to manage partnership with parents during the pandemic that we're in at the moment. Initially, when I did this presentation, that part was not there. I've just added that in because I know it's something that you'd all be wanting to understand and learn from, is how we can continue partnership with parents despite being in the situation we're in now with the pandemic. We'll also be outlining the importance of having a partnership with parents policy in an earlier setting, then we come to our conclusion. So hopefully I should be able to go through all these points in this morning's session. the first thing we need to understand is, what do we mean by partnership? I've brought out a dictionary explanation for the word, and then we look at words that have come up, and the synonyms will be cooperation, association, alliance. It's when there's a relationship between two or more people, organizations, or countries where they work together as partners. It involves sharing, involvement, support, and teamwork. So that's what we mean by partnership. And in the earlier setting, we're looking at partnership between ourselves and the parents. And in history, I'd just like to touch on the history of partnership with parents and how it developed before I go ahead. Now, in many years ago, parents had, our mothers mainly had a desperate choice that they had to make. They either the choice between poverty and hardship, or leaving their children uncared for whilst they went out for work. And many parents, many mothers decided to leave their children. There was nowhere for these children to go, and their parents had no choice but to work. So they would leave their children at home. And usually leaving children in cared for home, as we know, alone in homes, caused concern, caused accidents to happen. And unfortunately, there were fatal accidents where children were left alone at home, but parents had no choice. They had to work those long hours to bring income into the family and the running of the household. So in the late 1800s, the first day nurseries came about, and these day nurseries were brought about to give children a place to be while parents were working. Now, during this time, the mother would appear in the morning, drop the child off, and come and pick the child up at the end of the day. And usually when the children were dropped off, they were dropped off in their pajamas, unfed, unwashed, and basically straight from bed. And so the ladies looking after these children at the centres were there for the main reason of feeding and washing and caring. Not much emphasis were given on child development and learning during those years. But over the years, there's been a shift. They started, actually, there was a shift established for the importance of learning and development in these centres. And then practitioners started researching, learning, becoming professional in their entity, and being able to set up centres where children would be learning, would be playing, and would be developing. Whereas in the past, usually the activities taking place in these centres were to prepare children for the workforce. So there was a shift there, and usually these practitioners were viewed as knowing best. So then the shift came away from parents as the sole carers of the children, and there was this huge emphasis given on practitioners to know best. And historically, parents, so we can see that historically parents have not always been made welcome in settings as knowing the best for their children. Usually then it's shifted on to the practitioners. And then Chris Athey, as a researcher, he admits that initially parents were treated, were not treated as professionals, isn't that wrong? So they were not treated as professionals. It was the practitioners that were treated as experts. And as time went along, more research was done, more investigations, more theories were brought about to show that actually having parents involved in their child's development was a vital part. It was critically important to their development and well-being, and a vital part of their child development and holistic development. So they then started becoming a shift onto the strengthening role of the parents. So they were not ignored as not knowing the best for their children. They're actually now being brought up as being a vital part of the education system. What we found is that early years practitioners and experts have established the parents are the experts of their children. They know their children best. They know a lot about their children. If we collaborate with parents, we usually get positive outcomes, and we can support children's learning and development in a more positive way. And we realize children benefit when we work together with their parents, with the families, and this is what we want to speak about today. And being honest, being open, along with having more professional attitude in recent years has contributed to the recognition of the importance of partnership with parents. And this is what we want to focus on and how we can do it. And we all understand that the mutual benefits that we find with children's parents being involved with us, and that's the focus of this morning. For partnerships, so parent partnerships involve parents, families, and partnerships working together to benefit children's learning, well-being, welfare, and happiness. We all have many relationships in our lives. We have family, friends, colleagues, and neighbours, but we don't always have partnerships with them. Partnerships evolve when individuals have a common goal. They have a common outcome, and each person involved is working in partnership with each other to establish that outcome and work together towards that common goal. So partnerships involve responsibilities on both sides. Relationships, as mentioned, are with many people in our lives, but partnerships will then allow us to coordinate together to work towards a common goal, and that's where we bring in parents with practitioners. We have a common goal. We want the children to achieve, to get the most from family life and from the life that they have at the setting. So that's where we're working towards in collaboration with each other. I've actually put together 12 key characteristics that I think are very important for partnership with parents. And I think these can be listed and kept when you're doing your teacher training. So they keep these characteristics in mind when they're working towards partnership with parents. So we understand that we need to create a mutual respect and trust between the two parties, where everyone being equal and contributing in different ways. So getting them all involved and all giving the importance to both parties equally. We make a commitment to work together. We have a common goal and common outcome. We appreciate different perspectives, so we do listen. And I think listening on both sides is very important. We make an effort to understand and trust the other person's point of view. So when parents do come in collaboration with us, we need to make an effort to understand them, to trust them, and to take in their point of view, and vice versa. The communication that we have with each other must be open and comfortable. We need to listen and talk to each other. There needs to be a willingness to negotiate. Many times I know we have policies, but sometimes we do need to sit down and talk to our parents and understand their point of view. So maybe that gives a chance to reflect on what we're actually doing in our practice. And many times we do reflect on practice and do revisit certain policies and certain aspects of our practice as we take in considerations and suggestions from our parents. Power sharing and joint decision making. So we should be working in collaboration with each other when it comes to certain decisions that directly affect the children. Discussions, we're making important decisions. So as you can see, many schools and nurseries, learning centres have meetings, workshops, presentations, collaboration meetings where parents and practitioners and leaders come together, and we openly discuss certain decisions that will directly affect the children in our care. Practitioners valuing parents' views and following their lead in caring for their child. So we do need to value the fact that parents do know a lot about their children, and they are with them throughout the day. They do understand their children, and we should listen to and value their views. So these are some of the 12 characteristics I put together, which usually do support practitioners in understanding partnership with parents and how we can work towards a positive outcome in this area. As we know, a baby's brain, once we've researching on development of baby's brain, it shows that early childhood experiences can positively or negatively affect how the brain develops. We want to give children a positive early childhood experience. We want to come in collaboration with the parents and work towards a positive outcome when it comes to child development. And I think children are the happiest when they see positive communication, and they see parents happy when they come in to drop off their children to the centre, and when discussions happen between the teachers, even the admin staff and parents, children do feel so much more happy and so much more secure. There's a few quotes here I'm going to read out for you. I thought they really did stand out to me when I was researching on what to present to you guys this morning. When parents and practitioners work together in early year settings, the results have a positive impact on child development and learning. Therefore, each setting should seek to develop an effective partnership with parents. I will be speaking about how we can do this later on this morning. So it does we all understand that having this collaboration will have a positive impact on child development and learning, and the importance of working more effectively with parents to involve them in learning. We shouldn't overstate it. This is according to Wheeler and Connor in 2009. Again, I will be giving you the references, the references that I have used for this morning session. Children learn from everything they experience and wherever they are, whoever they're with, I think it's safe to establish that if there's the greater the continuity between home and the setting, the richer the learning environment in both, and the more children will benefit when they see that this collaboration is evolving and in a positive way. As we know, a very famous quote is children's first and most enduring educators are parents. They do know their children well. They know their likes, their dislikes. They understand them as who they are and their personalities. And for us to communicate with parents and get to know their children through the parents will support the communication between ourselves and them as well. There's something that I flipped through is a review of the impact on parental involvement from Scotland, and and they actually highlighted that success would be when children, parents, and teachers work together, and it does. When parents and teachers work together, we do have positive outcomes for the children, and that's again something that you can refer to when looking at how to collaborate to improve partnership with parents. I have some research here. I just wanted to share this with you. And this is Epstein in a book that he wrote in 2001. The reference will be given to you. He argued that school, family, and community are essential elements and crucial spheres of influence on child development. And he did come up with 6 types of involvement. And I think it's important to understand that these involvements, these 6 types of involvements do overlap and should be considered when speaking about collaboration with parents. So there's type 1 is parenting, and that kind of involvement occurs when families practice and home environment support children as students. So, so family practices and home environments are very important to understand. And how do they support children as students or children as learners? And I think this usually occurs when schools, nurseries, early year centres understand their children, the children's families. And this can do, I know in the UK we have home visits. Home visits are important. In the UAE, I don't generally see home visits happening, but I think the communication, understanding the home environment by communicating with parents is very important. We can do it by calling parents in, having workshops, educating parents. We can have parent courses, parent training. So lots of ways to collaborate with parents to establish this kind of involvement. We do have communication, which is the second type of involvement, and this usually occurs when educators, children and families design effective forms of school to home and home to school communications. It can come in the form of having conferences, sending folders and learning journeys home, asking for feedback, clear information, having clear information passed on a regular basis, such as changes or improvements in policies. It could be newsletters, it could be weekly letters, and it could be through, and also understanding that communication needs to be understandable. Also, if parents are using a different language, maybe we can think of having communication in the language that will support the families. So having maybe language translations done for information that's passed on. So this will improve this kind of involvement of communication. Now, the third type of involvement is volunteering. And usually this kind of involvement occurs when educators recruit and organise parent help and support within the setting. So having parents come in, volunteer through different volunteer programs, such as asking them to come and share their expertise. That's something that we often do in our settings. Do we have a pilot? Do they want to come and discuss what's happening, what he does in his work? Having them to come and share their strengths, share their expertise. Maybe have a parents' room or family centres where parents can come together and they can support each other. That's a way we can have parents volunteering. Parents do come, or they used to before the pandemic, coming and help during events, help during school trips. This is a lovely way to have them involved and utilise their talents, utilise parents' talents, get to know them and ask them to come and volunteer. So this is another type of involvement that you can consider when trying to improve partnership with parents. Now, the fourth type of involvement is learning at home. Usually that kind of involvement occurs when information and ideas and training are provided to support families about how they can support children at home. So how can they support children in the home environment with their learning and development? And usually that we can make parents alert through workshops, through information passed on at home, through live sessions like this, where we alert parents on the ages and stages of their development, so parents are aware of what to expect from their children. Many times we often foolishly expect that parents are aware of what should be happening with their children at a certain stage. And I think when we understand that they are most possibly not aware of what to expect when it comes to ages and stages, and I do believe it's our responsibility to communicate with parents and to make them aware of what they should be expecting from their children, and to look out for certain signs, look out for certain situations that may occur at home, what might bring up question marks and alarm bells, and allow them to come and speak to us because we have communicated that information to them. Maybe educate parents of how they can continue learning and development at home. What kind of activities can we do at home? I often do workshops where I talk about Play-Doh, the importance of Play-Doh, how to make Play-Doh, baking at home, different science experiments, because a lot of the activities we do within our settings can be mirrored at home. So maybe have active sessions where we are educating parents on how they can bring learning into their home environment. That will establish their involvement and support partnership with parents. The fifth is decision making, to include parents in decision making at the centres, where it involves them directly. So maybe have parent leaders, parent representatives, class parent representatives, which many of our centres do have. Obviously, we like to monitor those so they don't go on a tangent in a different direction. But usually what we do is find parents or establish which parents would like to coordinate and would like to be part of the parent leaders or parent representative areas, and get them involved and connected with parents, with the other parents, so they feel that they do feel like they've been valued and that their decisions or their points of views have been taken into consideration. Get to know how parents feel, what would they be expecting from us as a centre, because sometimes we do believe we do know the best when it comes to the outcomes of our practice. But many times I think getting to know what parents are expecting from us is very important. So have those kind of involvements where parents are able to discuss openly and feel like they're a part of decision making when it comes to the centre's operations. The sixth type of involvement is collaboration with the community. I think having the community, getting to know the community that our centre is in, and involve parents in that community is very important. Understanding that that this will strengthen school programs, family practices, and student learning and development. We get to know what's happening in our local community, find information for families, and share that information. Are there any extracurricular activities happening in the community that our children may benefit from? Maybe collaborate with those associations and connect them to the parents, get to know what social events are happening in the community, and become a part of them in collaboration with the parents. Do children require any kind of learning support? Get to know which kind of learning support organizations are in the community, and do communicate with the parents. So that's another way that we can have parents being involved with the setting and with the community. So this is what Epson came up with. I think what the important thing is that these 6 involvement types can overlap and can work in collaboration with each other, and or can work independently. So that's something that that you can consider within your settings, is how you want to involve parents to establish that strong relationship and partnership. I do have another parent involvement model. This actually is by Po and so Gillian and Erica came together and studied 130 nurseries in 1989, and they've come up with a framework to support parents and practitioners. And from this framework, they actually established 5 dimensions to parental involvement. So 5 types of parents that you might come across, and I think some of these may ring a bell. They may ring a bell when I do go through them with you now. So do have a look, and I'm sure when I'm speaking to you, you'll have a certain type of parent that pops into your head. But what our plan is working towards supporting the parents who might not be so involved. So I'm just going to quickly go through these 5 different dimensions to parent involvement, and you can note down these types and see what we can do to support them. So we have the non-participation. So parents usually in this dimension are not involved in children's learning. So we have the active non-participants who actually decide not to be involved. They may be happy with what's on offer, but very busy at work or just want time away from their children. So they really detach themselves, and they're actually called detached parents. Or you can have the passive type of parent who would like to be involved but may lack the confidence to do this, or may be unhappy with the form of partnership offered. And I think it's important to get to know what kind of non-participating parent you have. So if you do have a parent who doesn't like to be involved or does not involve themselves at all, get to know the reason why and see if you can support them in alternative methods of being involved. We have the supportive parent who usually supports from the outside. So these parents become involved only when invited. For example, attending events or providing money for learning resources. So they'll be involved, but only be involved if they're prompted. So then that does establish the fact that we should be prompting as often as possible to establish parent support. And somewhere or another, while they're being although they be supporting from the outside, and they will be somewhat involved. So I think that's important to establish as well. And then we have the participating parent who supports the setting from within. You can see these parents as helpers or learners, and the parents as helpers are the ones who provide support in outings, support in the learning in the setting. So would come in and volunteer their support, or maybe even running the toy library. They like to be involved as helpers. Then we have the parents as learners who love to involve themselves when it comes to workshops and parent education sessions. They want to learn, they want to know, they want to, these parents participate in parent forums, such as different settings where, there's no board of trustees. They come together as a parent committee, and they support and want to learn from us. So these are the parents as learners. I think that's where we kind of, again, can involve the element of our workshop and our presentations, where we are educating parents about their children and about early childhood education and development. So that's where we can get them involved as participators. They may have something that they would like to share, so they may be some kind of expert in their area that is related to child development, and they may want to share that too. So that's another way we can get them to participate. Then we have partnerships. So parents are involved in a working relationship with practitioners. This is actually what we're aiming towards, where parents have the parent partnerships are characterized by a shared sense of purpose and mutual respect. For example, they have equal access to information. They are involved in the assessment and diagnosis of their children, so they're actively involved and they partnered up with the practitioners and educators to support their child's well-being and development. And some of those are quite actively involved, and many times we would realize that these parents would like to ask a lot about early years education, and eventually some of them do become educators themselves. So they are very much involved in the system and would like to know as much as possible, and very much inclined to becoming educators themselves as well. And then we have the controlling type of parent involvement, where parents determine and implement decisions. These parents are ultimately responsible and accountable for provisions of the setting and have the same responsibility and control as governors in the school, so very much in control. Although few would take operational control, usually it's to do with the day-to-day management of the setting. So do we want controlling parents, or do we have to have an element of the type of control parents have? So we need to be able to establish what kind of parent involvement we're working towards, and then bring out different activities, sessions, or action plans to work towards that. So that's what I got from this research here. Now the next section I'd like to touch on is why partnership with parents in early years is so important. Now I've broken this up into 3 areas, and I think these 3 areas are just important as each other. So firstly, we'll be looking at how do children benefit from partnership with parents, and then we can look at how we, as early years educators, how do we benefit from partnership with parents, and then we look at how parents benefit from partnership with parents. So although we're all entwined with each other and we do come together to build that partnership, we do benefit from this partnership in separate ways, in different ways. And I think it's important to understand what ways we all benefit from this partnership. So firstly is, how do children benefit from partnership with parents? We all know that children will thrive when they see adults caring for them and working well together. There's one thing I do often say when I do have parents come in, when we did before the pandemic, have parents come in, is when a child sees that there's a good communication, an open relationship, or there's confidence and a comfortable feel between the parents and the educators, a child will feel much more comfortable in being left with the educators. So I always say it's important for discussions to happen, communication to happen between yourselves and the parents, and for children to see that, because that gives them a sense of belonging. It makes them feel comfortable. They feel more secure, and they feel comfortable in the environment they're in, knowing that their parents are happy with where they are. When we have any kind of upset parent or any confrontation with parents, and if it happens in front of the children, you'll often see that the children will kind of close them in themselves and would kind of express the uncomfortable feel, and you'll pick up on that. So that's important for you to have discussions that may be of a confrontational nature, not in front of the children, because you would be going backwards in partnership. I think where children's needs are shared and discussed, children do thrive and do much better. Having a trusting relationship with the educator and a safe emotional environment are essential for children's development and learning. So I think it's important to establish that feel for the child. I think when children feel respected when their family values are respected. And I think when their culture and their language or their lifestyle is respected, children do feel so much more secure and so much more happy within themselves. And I think when educators, when practitioners support and understand a child's family life, family members, the way they dress, their language, I think that gives a sense of belonging within children. I think children achieve greater success in their emotional, social, and cognitive development when they know that there's positive partnerships between the home and the setting. We understand that children learn from modeling and how to respect others. So if we show respect within the home and the setting environment, children will pick up on that and do model that behavior. And they do learn about respectful relationships, about discussions, about mutual respect, and about working towards a common goal. Partnerships also allow children to see the most important people in their lives work well together, because coming to think of it, children come to us in the morning, go back home to their families. So we are the two elements that bring a child's development together. And I think if we work together towards that, children do feel respected. I think also moving on to looking at how early childhood educators benefit from partnership with parents. I think it's important to understand that when we have a good relationship with the parents, that it's a knock-on effect. Children feel comfortable to be around us. We get to know the children better when we do have an open communication with the parents. I think we get to know what parents have in mind when they come into an early years setting and when they register their children. Many times we do, and I often say we need to establish the reasoning behind the parent turning to an early years setting, and many times parents have different reasons. And I think if we understand the reasons behind their turning towards bringing their children to an early years setting, we do get a chance to work together and work towards that goal. I do have parents who say, look, my main concern is my child's not eating properly, or not interacting with other children, or is not using language. Their language skills are not as brilliant as they should be according to the age and stages. So we then work towards that common goal together, and we keep in communication with each other. So that does support and make our job easier as well, when we have a partnership with parents. How do the parents benefit? Well, parents want the best for the children, and I think if they are able to have open relationships with us and good partnerships with us, they're able to communicate their concerns. They're able to feel relaxed that their children are in a safe environment. Parents feel a sense of worth and a feel of confidence, and they establish confidence in their own abilities and look after their children, because they can benefit from the information we're giving. When we train parents, when we support parents, when we educate parents, it makes them feel more confident about bringing their children up and about communicating their needs and concerns and wants from us as a setting. Sometimes, parents lack understanding that their children need stimulation, that there needs to be different activities happening at home. And if we support them in partnership, we'll be able to establish that awareness for parents. So I think communication is key. And I think we are able to support parents in any gaps that we might be seeing, in any concerns that might arise. And so we're able to fill those gaps and face those concerns and discuss those concerns. Many times parents will not be aware that there's certain areas that we need to focus on for their child. They don't know any better. They would not know that if their child might be lacking in a certain area. And I think if we establish a good partnership with them, we're able to make them aware that there's certain areas that they need to focus on, and maybe support them with different entities, different organizations that may be able to support them. So all in all, I think having partnership with parents will support children, will support us, and will support parents in different but very similar ways. It makes us feel that we're in a safe, secure, and happy environment, and that's for all of us. And I think that's very, very important. Now, I would like to discuss a different range of ways that we can promote partnership with parents. I do understand some of these would not be possible at the moment. I will be speaking about different ways you can establish promote and establish and promote partnership with parents within the pandemic we're in at the moment. COVID-19 has taken away a lot of these things, but I'm hoping things will improve and you'll be able to go back to these ways of involving parents within the setting. So family social events, we used to do picnics, and hopefully we can get back to them. Family picnics, family events, International Day. These are really good ways of involving parents into your setting and getting to know them a little bit more. Parent-family display boards, information display boards, newsletters, any kind of display that will give information to the parents about bringing up their children is really, really important. Regular newsletters, regular communication, emails. If you have a parent app, lots of communication on there to keep yourselves connected. Keep parents informed if anything changes within your setting, a change of management, change of teacher, change of policies, regulations. Keep them informed so they feel connected to the setting. Social media such as Facebook, Twitter, all the different apps, Instagram, keep them connected. Keep sending them links to what we're putting out there on social media. Maybe they would like to give them the encouragement to send in testimonials, comment on the social media posts that you've put up. So keep them connected and answer. So if a parent does comment on a photograph, do answer. Do acknowledge that their comments have been read and appreciated. I think that's really important because that will give confidence for other parents to come on as well. So social media communication is, especially nowadays, very, very important. Parents' evenings, I know that now we've probably not been able to do those physically, but do have those Zoom meetings. And when parents within your school day, if you're able to come on to a Zoom meeting, do keep that communication open, because at the moment I think that's the only way to discuss your concerns or your comments and parents' concerns and comments about their children, about the setting, and maybe about operations. Give them time and attention. When parents do come to drop off their children, do meet them, greet them, give them time if they'd like to speak to you. Obviously not at the moment, but do let them know that you're available for a Zoom meeting whenever that's possible. Be there, for managers, for leaders, admin, be there at the front, meeting and greeting your parents, teachers, teacher assistants, be there at the door. Do say hi if you do get the chance to meet your parents, or do pop them an email if you have a child who has come in a little bit upset. So keep that communication open. Reassure your parents as often as you can that things are going well, they are concerns, you are addressing them. Parent involvement sessions, have parents involved in different ways, invite them in to share their expertise, share parts of their culture, their religion. Ask them to come and be involved in different maybe storytelling sessions. There's a huge range of ways we can have parents involved. I know at the moment they can't come in physically, but Zoom and Teams is an amazing way to get parents into the classroom. I will discuss a little bit of those activities in my next slide. Sharing expertise, knowledge, as I mentioned, many of our parents, get to know your parents, get to know what they do. Because many times we kind of overlook the fact that parents might have some kind of knowledge and expertise that we could benefit from that children can benefit from, or even our parents can benefit from. So we've had parents who are working in the area of early years. We may have a pediatrician on board, we may have a ACA leader on board. So do you want to get them involved, because their communication of their knowledge can be passed on to our other parents, and that will establish partnerships and support for them when it comes to bringing up their children. Support open discussion and feedback. Have your comments, suggestions and concerns box, or allow or make parents feel comfortable to give their feedback. SurveyMonkey is a lovely way to ask for feedback if it's not often coming your way. Do send an email to parents and say, please feel free to discuss or pass on any comments or suggestions, and do acknowledge them when they do come through. We may not be able to support those comments to the end, or there's maybe some suggestions that we won't be able to do, but do acknowledge that you've received such suggestions and give them reasoning why that may not be possible at the current time. I do thank them for their input, because that will then establish a good relationship. And if there's anything else that comes across, they will be comfortable communicating with you. Have an open door policy. Parents should be able to come in and speak to you, or give yourself a phone call, come onto a Zoom meeting. When it comes, this is more to do with management. I think having that open door policy is very important, knowing that parents don't need to wait for a particular time to communicate with you. You might be busy at the time, but do communicate back and let them know when it's possible to meet. Open communication and honesty. Honesty is key. It's very important to be as open and as honest as possible. Parents need to trust. They need to trust that they've sent their child to a place where things are as they have been said to be. The minute a parent will see something contrary to what you've discussed, that's where the miscommunication and the mistrust will occur, and then that communication gap happens, and parents do feel uncomfortable bringing in their children. Then you have a knock-on effect. If the parent feels uncomfortable, generally children do feel uncomfortable too. Get to know them and their children, get to know their families, their cultures, and share that with the other parents, with the other children, with the other teachers, so they also know their children, know the child. And I think having that open communication and get to know them policy does support in establishing a strong partnership with parents. And I put right at the end there, involve fathers. Many times partnership with parents has been a focus on how we can get mothers involved and how mothers can be a part of the setting, whereas usually the fathers are the forgotten ones. I think fathers have lots to communicate, lots to share, and would love to be part of the session. So where we do Mother's Day, have fathers come in. I've done that before. We've had fathers come in, and we've had baking sessions, and it usually was only the mothers. So I actually had a father's baking session where fathers would come in and do these sessions. And hopefully once this pandemic is over, those are the kind of activities you can bring about within your setting to support partnership with parents. Now, partnership with parents during the pandemic. This is a hot topic for sure. How do we include parents during this time? Communication is key. Lots and lots of communication. Again, newsletters, social media communication, Zoom meetings. All this is vital during this time, because parents cannot come into the setting. They cannot come in and have meetings, and we miss that connection with them. So I think establishing a regular communication setup system would be vital during this time. Having parents involved. I've done several activities throughout since the 4th of October, since we opened, of how we can involve parents. So we had sports day. It was a 30-30 challenge. So I actually asked parents to be involved with their children in a challenge and send me through videos, pictures. We've got display boards. We've got a video rolling through the reception area where parents can see how they've been involved in their children's, how parents have been involved together in establishing the 30-30 challenge. I've actually had parents send in short videos where they've done activities with their children for, say, when we had Ramadan. I had parents do a voice message for Happy Ramadan with children, with artwork, collaborated that into a video, and then we sent that out to all our parents. So we had them involved in that session. We've just recently had Mother's Day, so lovely. I know that our teachers put together videos where children told their parents how much they love them, and it was Happy Mother's Day, collaborated in the video, and then emailed out to parents. We sent out survey monkeys for communication and to get to know what they would enjoy when it came to partnership with parents. We did graduation sessions. We had a graduation party, and what we generally would do is call our parents in for the graduation session, but we couldn't do that. So we actually asked parents, and this was during lockdown, so children were at home and they were asked to wear a white t-shirt and blue jeans, and we sent parents a template for the graduation hat. Everyone was dressed the same. We came in together in a Zoom meeting, and it was a collaborated graduation party. So this is the kind of ways we can keep ourselves involved. Training sessions are important. Workshops can be done online, whereas we'd normally call parents in. We need to listen to them, and we need to understand that these are very difficult time for some parents. We've gone over a little bit. I think we need to understand that parents are having a hard time, and having an open discussions with them, giving them our ear, listening to them, considering them. They might have certain requests, and try to support them as much as possible, so they feel like they've been heard and they feel like they've been listened to. We do have some challenges, as quickly can whiz through them, because I think I'm going over time a little bit. So we do understand that although we will try our best to establish partnership with parents, there might be certain situations where parents aren't being able to be involved. We need to then establish different ways of having them involved. They may be busy, have a busy work schedule, lack energy, busy lives outside the setting, work commitments, family commitments, language, visits to the settings are perceived to be uncomfortable. So we need to look at these barriers and focus on the discussion I've had earlier on how we can establish partnerships despite having these barriers. How can we break these barriers to support partnership with parents? And we can reflect on these barriers, and we can work towards establishing partnerships in different ways. We might have parents who don't have a sense of trust, or they might be living far, they might have different culture, religion, and different reasoning. What can we do to support parents? What can we do to make those barriers lessen, break down those barriers, and establish partnership with parents? It is important to have a policy to support each other, to support all educators on all different sections of the setting in establishing positive partnership with parents. It helps us have a clear vision. It helps us have a clear policy and a clear foundation for practice, as with all other policies. So please do work towards having a partnership with parents policy. Look at what you'd like to do to work together to establish that relationship. Look at the barriers. Do look at the barriers. Do reflect on the comments I've made earlier and the information I've passed on to help you support in breaking down those barriers together to establish parents' partnership in a different way. Each parent is different, so as we know, every child is unique. Every parent is also unique. They may have to have a different approach to each set of parents, or each different type of parent to support this partnership. In conclusion, as I've mentioned, do reflect on practice, do have a look at the different ways you can involve parents, acknowledge that you've got different types of parents and they're all in different circumstances. During the COVID, again, it has been difficult, and there are many ways that you can establish communications and partnerships. I hope the session has been informative. I've enjoyed passing it on, Rafi. I think that's me for this morning. I think I have a few questions.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Before we start answering the questions, I would like to inform everyone that already 187 or 188 certificates as of now has already been dispatched or sent off. We're hoping before the start of Ramadan, we could finish all the backlog. There will be no more delays, as we already got the CPD approvals for everything as well. So it's going to be sent out. We are sending it out daily. I predict that before the end of this week, all the certificates will be out. Fingers crossed that happens. And again, we're very, very sorry.
Thank you, Rafi. Quite excited to get the certificates. I'm just thinking, I think most of the questions for you, Rafi. I think I've tried to, I've got a few coming through.
Hanan, for the recordings of the session, we're editing them and they'll be uploaded on our website. When you receive the email for the certificate, there will be a link to that, and any handouts that is relevant for that session also be in the email, and also be available for download in our website. The videos might take a little bit longer to upload. I think the first two sessions will be uploaded this week, and next week we'll upload the other sessions and keep going on from there.
Perfect. Yeah, Nicola's just mentioned that some good ideas. Can't wait for restrictions to ease. Yeah, can't wait for these restrictions to ease. It has caused a really difficult time for us when it comes to these partnerships, but there are different ways that we can establish, as mentioned. And we do miss having the parents at the setting. So hopefully those restrictions will ease soon. I don't have any more questions. I think
Actually, you do. There's
try
one
to be.
just come in.
Sorry.
There's one just come in. How do you work with a parent who's in denial about development of the child, but is supportive in other matters in the setting?
Yeah, so for denial about development of the child, I think persistence is key. I've come across a couple of situations where similar parents have come my way where they will not accept that there's anything to be concerned about. So what I've done is that the route I took was just persistent meetings, try not to come on too upfront and too straightforward, a little bit around, these are the things that we've noticed and this is the way we can support you. There's been both of those situations that I have actually been faced with. There's come times where parents have actually come back to me, and it has been a while since they accepted that the situation is as it is, and about a year later they said to me, we're sorry, we listened to you at the time. It's just, it's very difficult. I think we've got to understand, as for parents, it's very difficult to hear that their child has anything that we need to be concerned about. And I think the more empathetic we are towards that situation, the more persistent we are, the more likely it is that parents will actually eventually listen to what we have to say. And many times parents are aware that there are situations that they need to be concerned about. It's just hard for them to accept. And I think persistence, again, is key.
I think that is it for today. Thank you very much. Nicola, as usual, you are a superstar student or attendee.
Thanks, Nicola.
Thank you, everyone, for attending the session. And
thank you, Rafi.
Hopefully we'll see you for the other session this evening or next week.
Next week. You'll see me next week, but we'll see you guys this evening. Thank you.
Have a lovely day. Goodbye.
Thank you, Rafi. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.